Hey golfers, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to do a PGA Tour Player analysis on none other than Rory McIlroy. We're going to look at some old footage on a position at the top of the backswing which I feel he hit back in the day, which was much better than what he's doing at the moment. I also want to prove that Rory knows this himself, and it's the reason why he's using certain training aids like the Pro Sender or the Tour Striker Smart Ball, and alongside some of the drills he's doing on the range in order to fix this issue. So before we get started, if you could, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get started. Talk about when I grew up in Northern Ireland. I was very lucky and fortunate enough to be able to play some golf with Rory and grow up playing on some teams with him. And one thing that always stood out was the incredible distance that he hit the golf ball. The way he struck it was like nothing else. None of us other ones were doing that. He was just that bit better than us. But he did always have a predominant right to left movement to his ball flight. Okay, so quite a lot of draw on the golf ball. And that's not to say he couldn't fade it, but definitely his natural shot was right to left. And over the years, he's definitely done a great job of toning that down, because I think he knows that that is a weakness, and sometimes it can turn into a little bit too much and become quite difficult to control and time, particularly with the shorter clubs and harder with the scoring clubs. So let's take this swing on the left to the top of the backswing, because that's what we want to talk about in this position, that he was hitting here and not quite hitting now. So if we take these both to the top, now granted this one on the right is shorter, it might be a little more lofted club, but let's take the one on the left back to the same length of backswing. Okay, and we'll check out where the shaft is pointing. Okay, so it's very clear to see here that the shaft on the right is pointing more right. Okay, and on this one you can see that he creates a nice line with the shaft and his left arm. Now bearing in mind he is not all the way to parallel. If he goes to parallel with this one on the left, he'll get this nice position where the shaft is pointing perfectly down the target. Now on the one on the right, granted it's a bit short of parallel, and it's not that he needs to go to parallel, neither do you, but if this did continue on past this point, he would end up with a position where the shaft is well to the right of target, so very across the line. Now, why is that a bad thing? Because now he will have to compensate, and there's a good chance that from that, the club could drop a little bit behind him, the face could get open, and he'll also have to rely quite heavily on releasing the club pretty hard through impact. And that's not really something that somebody who struggles with a bit of a hook or an overdraw at times wants to be dealing with. Okay, so this position on the left I feel is much better. So let's look at why that shaft on the right hand side is crossing the line. Remember, if it goes longer than this, it would be considerably across the line, not just a little bit, but quite a bit across. And on the left, it is in such a better position, in my opinion, for him to be able to start the downswing and keep the club more on plane. So let's look at what's causing that and why I feel he is using certain training aids and certain drills in order to fix this. So the reason for this is a lot to do with his wrist mechanics and his wrist angles at the top of the backswing. So let's look at, if we have a neutral grip, as Rory does, then we would look and say, at the top of the backswing, we'd like that wrist to be flat, like it is on the old swing. And we would like the right wrist to be bent back. Okay, so this is a flat lead wrist and an extended right wrist. Now, let's look at the right hand side, and we can see that there's more of a cup in his lead wrist in the current model and less of a bend in his right wrist. Okay, now why is this important? Well, let's imagine that this swing on the right, if he was able to flatten that wrist a little bit and put a little bit more bend in his right, well, the shaft would pitch more this way. Okay, therefore getting him more on plane like he is on the left. There's not a whole lot of difference in terms of the structure of the arms in the top of the backswing, but definitely if he gets that wrist flatter and the right wrist more bent, the shaft would pitch across into a similar position here on the left. So let's look at some of the drills that Rory's doing, and alongside some video of him using the training aids trying to work on this. So let's listen in on what Rory has to say about the Pro Sender, why he's using it, and the feeling that he likes which it creates.
One of them, it's like let the left arm right up the chest and just get that right hand into the cradle, and it's perfect.
So right hand into the cradle. Now, if you know the Pro Sender, and if not, you can do a little bit of research on it. It's designed to get that right wrist into more of an extended position and be able to hold that throughout the golf swing. Now, as we talked about before, if this right wrist was more, say, in the cradle, like the Pro Sender, well, then the shaft would pitch more in this direction. So ultimately, what he means and what he feels the Pro Sender gives him is more of an angle in his right wrist. Therefore, that is going to flatten the lead wrist and get the shaft more across on plane. Okay, so let's look at some of the other training aids that he uses. One, the Tour Striker Smart Ball. And this is slightly different. He's working on the right arm, right elbow, trying to keep the elbows closer together. But ultimately, that move will also achieve a similar result to the Pro Sender. So on the left here, we have Rory using the Tour Striker Smart Ball. And for those of you who don't know, it's a ball that goes between your elbows. And the idea is throughout the entire swing, you have to keep the ball in there. And what it's ultimately working on is what's called right shoulder external rotation. Little technical, but let's think about it in terms of this elbow here. Now, as we go into this, if that elbow was to work more in this direction, so that's called internal rotation, the shaft would go more this direction, the wrist would cup more, and therefore the right wrist would flatten out. Remember, that's a little bit of what's going on over here on the right side, and we're talking about how Rory, I feel, wants to get rid of that. So when he's at the top here and he is working hard on trying to get this ball to stay between his arms, it's going to bring his elbow more this way and therefore make it much easier for the shaft to line up better with this lead arm, flatten the wrist, and put some more bend in the right wrist. Okay, so I know it's a little technical, hang with me, but definitely something that he is working on. And we'll see this in a drill also that he's been seen to be doing on the range, which covers exactly what we're talking about here. So before I show you this drill on the left, I want to point something out that it is really important for your golf game, no matter what you're working on, whether it's a takeaway position, a top of the backswing, or a downswing, shallowing move, or whatever it may be. It's really important that you exaggerate it, because in golf, there's a term called feel versus real. What you feel is happening is not actually happening. So it's really important that when you are making these swing changes to your game, that you exaggerate the movement as much as possible, because when you go to hit a golf ball, it will not be anything like exaggerated at all. So when we look at Rory here on the range, working on the hands, working more up in front of him, and very clearly the shaft pointing much more left of target. Now, he is never going to hit a golf shot and get into that position. He wouldn't want to. He wouldn't hit it very good. But what he's trying to do is feel the polar opposite of what he's doing over here on the right side. Because again, I think he knows that the more he gets that trail shoulder into external rotation, the left wrist gets flatter and the right wrist gets more bent. The shaft pitches across and nicely lines up with his lead arm, much like we've seen in the older swing. So I guess the key from this is exaggerate any move that you're trying to make. Don't try and make it perfect in your drills. Exaggerate the heck out of it, because that's where you're going to get the change to accelerate much faster. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I think it's only fair that I play these swings through. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you agree with what I said about his swing? Also, maybe let me know what you're working on in your golf swing. I'll see if I can help you out. Now, you've stuck with me this long. I think what I should do is play both of these swings in full motion so you can take a look. This is obviously the more up to date. Still pretty incredible. And then one we might not have seen in a while. The old school Rory. So guys, thanks again. If you could, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.